How to conduct an annual grandparents camp for grandchildren. In this episode, I'm going to talk about Grandpa's camp is now our favorite family tradition, and you're going to see why. So my name's Doug Andrew, and I've helped many thousands of people optimize their financial assets and minimize taxes and empower what I call their authentic wealth now for more than 48 years. But during that nearly 5-decade era, as I've met with many couples and sometimes elderly people who have lost one spouse, I have shared with them some of the game-changing concepts and traditions that my wife, Sherry, and we've been married now for more than 48 years, that we've established as a family. And we have many traditions. One is having family vacations with a purpose. And there's usually between 2 to 4 family vacations that we conduct on a yearly basis that we have a specific purpose for. There's another episode on this very channel that talks about that. But in this one, I'm going to share with you why Grandpa's camp is now one of our favorite family traditions. And I'm not telling you this. This is what our grandchildren share. We have 20 grandchildren now as of the recording of this episode. So I'm going to explain what Grandpa's Camp is, why we came up with the idea, how we started it, and how we evolved and tweaked it through the years so that you don't have to make the same mistakes that we made, and you can have a very fast power curve instead of a long learning curve like we've had. So why did we start an annual Grandpa's Camp? I remember I was talking to a lot of colleagues, Lee Brower, Dan Sullivan one day. I belong to a strategic coach. In fact, I've been part of that mastermind group for over 20 years. And we were talking about the concept on how to teach children, grandchildren, principles such as responsibility and accountability. And so we actually put together a list of various concepts and principles that a lot of colleges and universities are not successfully teaching our children today. In fact, one of our fellow members of Strategic Coach is Richard Rossi, and he gave a talk at a Genius Network event where he disclosed in 10 minutes 8 principles that you must teach your children that colleges and universities are not effectively teaching. And I agreed with all 8 of those. We sort of collaborated those in Strategic Coach. I added 4 to his 8, and I've actually recorded episodes on this very channel, 3-Dimensional Wealth, on how to teach these 12 principles that colleges and universities are not effectively teaching, such as critical problem-solving skills and how to be responsible and accountable and how to communicate effectively and on and on and on. Now, one of our favorite environments to teach these principles is at our annual Grandpa's Camp. So my wife and I, we decided about 10 years ago to start holding one of these on an annual basis. And when we announced this, the grandkids got so excited. Our children, they weren't quite sure, but they know that we don't do anything lightly. And so through the years, we have continued to learn from each Grandpa's Camp that we held. Now, our very first Grandpa's Camp, we had all of our grandchildren come, all ages together. We had teenagers mixed with grandchildren all the way down to age 4. Now, some of our children says you really ought to wait until they're 6 or they're 8, but my wife, she did not want to exclude anybody, and so that's why she had the age go clear down to age 4. They had to be potty trained and so forth. And so we started out with 4-year-olds, but we realized that she was going to have to pay more attention to the 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, and I could handle more or less the 8-year-olds and older, but we all came together for meals and for campfire discussions and so forth. And so the first year we had a theme, how to live, love, learn, give, and earn. And so this was based upon my 3-dimensional approach to authentic wealth. And so we talked about how to save money. In fact, they were given assignments. They had to go out with their parents and learn how to grocery shop and choose between needs and wants and so forth. We also had them report on what their parents did to earn a living. They had to visit their mom and or their dad's place of work and report on it. They also had to research their ancestor, and they came prepared with a story about one of their ancestors, and so they had to do research on their ancestry. And so we had lots of activities and homework, and they got very excited about coming and sharing all together. And so basically, as we gathered together at a property where we have about 20 acres in central Utah, and this is more or less sort of like a desert property, but it's where we had our children, then now our grandchildren go, and they're able to ride four-wheelers, and they're able to hike, and they're able to shoot bows and arrows or target practice. It's a very safe environment where we're able to take them. You don't have to have a property like this. You can hold it at any resort or place that you would like to do it. We've even held some in our backyard. But they came and we had activities, and we planned activities morning, afternoon, and evening, and then we had a lesson. And the best thing that we did is we assigned a lesson and an activity to each one of our grandchildren, and it was a hit because they took the time to be prepared and share. And so we did that, and we were together for 2 full days. Yeah, we were worn out. My sweet wife was handling all of the meals and everything like that, and I'm handling all the logistics of the activities. And we went on hikes, four-wheeler rides. It was a huge hit. And so we knew we were onto something. This next year, we filled out what we call a Better Life Circle. How can we improve? And so the next Grandpa's Camp, we decided to bring the teenagers, actually the 12-year-olds and older, for the first 3 days. Now that's 4 days. And we talk teenage talk, and we do it at a different location, at a condo or a different cabin or a resort. And we do high adventure, rappelling, and mountain climbing, things that the little kids can't do. But we use the tools. I have 22 thinking tools: the Better Life Circle, the Solution Formulator, the Opportunity Breakthrough, the Goal Activator, the Project Clarifier. We have these thinking tools that we teach, and we do one in the morning, one in the afternoon, one in the evening. And every one of our teenage grandkids, they will take time to learn and teach. And then we bring all of them as the 4-year-olds and older come to join them. And then I have the 8-year-olds, the 8 to 11-year-olds join the older ones, and we actually camp out at a different location about a mile away. And because we have 2 pieces of property about a mile away as the crow flies, and they ride between the 2 properties on four-wheelers. And Grandma stays with the 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, and she is able to handle some of the activities with them. But we bring them together for all kinds of games, water balloon fights, the four-wheeler rides. We have a treasure hunt, but we learn to have the teenagers conduct the treasure hunt from the 2nd year on, and they love creating the scavenger hunt or the treasure map. And so we involve the older children in facilitating this. And we always have a theme. I think the 2nd year, it was put on the whole armor of God. And this is found in Ephesians. We're Christian, and so we weave in a lot of our beliefs from a religious standpoint. The next year, it was America, the Land of Liberty, and our grandkids were assigned to learn stories that unfortunately have been taken out of the school history books because of one reason or another. I wanted our grandkids to learn about stories about the founding fathers and what made this country great. And so this is the opportunity to teach them things they will not usually learn in a school setting for one reason or another. And so through the years, we've had different themes like let your light so shine, being responsible, accountable, be a possibility thinker. And they love this. And I remember the 2nd year, we usually announce the theme around Christmas. And then they have anticipation because we hold this the last week of June, and it usually ends around my birthday, which is July 2nd. It's the best way I think I can think of to celebrate my birthday every year is with all of our grandkids, because the final day, the parents are finally allowed to come. Now that we have 20, we usually get one of the parents, one or two of them to volunteer to come and help with the meals and the logistics, but it's still grandma and grandpa. Now, just so you know, this is grandparents, but I'm going to make a little confession here. I think life's unfair. Even the song at Thanksgiving, over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we go. Well, it's my house too. But I'm okay with that. When we go to our grandkids' homes, if I walk through the door first, they're usually grandpa until grandma walks through the door, and then they go right past me to grandma. She just has that attraction. And so at our home, I built a tree house. Now, this is a tree house that can accommodate 12 of them in the second level. It has a fireplace and everything, but this tree house, I invested over $25,000 into this thing. But now they come to Grandpa's tree house. So when we decided to come up with a grandparents camp, I said, let's just call it Grandpa's camp. And my wife goes, well, how about Grandpa and Grandma's camp? I said, no, that's too long. Let's just call it Grandpa's camp. So that's my strategic bypass, okay? Now, when we did our second year, we announced the theme in December, and my grandson, Ethan, he was so excited to give me this big box because his mom the previous year got tired. Every day he would ask, Mom, how many more days till Grandpa's camp? And, she would say, well, okay, it's January. It's not till June. And so she made a Grandpa's camp chain. And so a link was every day of every month, and it hung up in his bedroom at different colors of chains for each month. And then she would put in Valentine's Day and St. Patrick's Day and Easter. And so he could sort of tell. And every day he was able to cut a link of the chain, and he could physically see around his room how many more days till Grandpa's camp, so that she wouldn't have to answer that question. And he's a smart little whippersnapper. I think he was just 5 years old at the time. And he equated going to bed and waking up to cutting a link off. So every time he woke up, his mother said he could cut off a link, so he started taking more naps because he thought he could cut a link every time he woke up, and it would make Grandpa's camp come sooner. At that Christmas, he gave me this great big box on Christmas Eve, and I opened it up. It was my own Grandpa's camp chain that we hung in our sunroom, which is 30 feet long, and it was so that Grandpa would never forget how many more days till Grandpa's camp. It is the anticipation that you build with these kids and grandkids, and my greatest payday is when they say that is their favorite week of the year is Grandpa's camp. And even though we do go to Disney World occasionally, or we go to Maui every other year, they say, Grandpa and Grandma, our favorite tradition is Grandpa's camp. And I assure you, when you begin to hold your own Grandpa's camp and you begin to teach these principles, you will see your children and grandchildren look forward to these opportunities. So how can you learn how to do this? Well, I've given you some ideas, but in this book, Entitlement, Abolition, and I don't invite you to this channel to sell you a book. In fact, if this is resonating with you, this is what I want you to do first. I want you to subscribe to this channel and click like, share this with somebody else, your spouse especially, if you want to think of doing a Grandpa's camp or you want your parents to do one. But it's free to subscribe to this channel and click on the little bell so you'll be notified every time I post a new educational video, which I do almost on a daily basis. Post a comment, click like, but subscribe. But stay with me here because I'm going to gift you a copy of this book and show you how you can learn more about Grandpa's camp. I'm very passionate about this, and so in chapter 7 of this book, I talk about how to conduct family vacations with a purpose, and there's another episode on this channel that talks about this. But chapter 8 talks specifically about Grandpa's camp, and there are agendas, there's ideas, there's themes, there's pictures, and you can read and learn how to conduct your own Grandpa's camp and also have access to some of the 22 thinking tools and various activities that we have used as we've tweaked our Grandpa's camp from year to year to year to get better and better and better. So this is how you can claim your free copy. Go to entitlementabolitionbook.com, entitlementabolitionbook.com, or click on the link below. Contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that and fire out a free copy to you. This is 200 pages, but there's also options there to listen and learn, watch and learn. There's even an 18-hour masterclass that covers all 12 chapters of this book. Some of them are hour and a half, 2-hour episodes that do a deep dive that I don't even do in the book. But when you're in there, be sure and check out some of the virtual events where I teach these concepts. One of my favorites is called Retire by Design. When you claim your free copy of this book, you'll have the opportunity to get a discount to enroll and subscribe in one of these virtual workshops like Retire by Design, so you can be empowered and learn about this concept and many, many others that will enrich your life.